are we doing?
Yeah, I don't know the break. I want the break. I just push with that.
Find a rake. Put it in.
Hey guys, it's Saturday, November 5th. Still doing work outside in the yard. As you can see, the temperature has dropped. It was, well, we're in low single digits where we are, so it is freezing cold, but we still have a few things that I would like to get done before next spring. Haven't posted a video in 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I don't even know. I'm working on finishing another set of beds in the garden, and as every project, it's taking a lot longer than anticipated. I would be working there now, but I ran out of fill and topsoil, so ordered more of that. It's on its way one of these days. In the meantime, cleaned up the experimental garden in the back in the forest of our land here. Didn't do very good. The soil is really wet, really muddy. So I'm going to again, I'm going to try and make it a little bit more usable. Thinking of putting in a raised bed back here. We'll see if that plan materializes. We have to do all these things now, basically, because in the springtime, by the time the ground thaws and all the contractors in the area are able to haul fill and topsoil materials to our house, it's way too late in the growing season. So if we don't get everything done the year before or the fall before we want to plant in it, it's just not going to happen. So on the plus side, it's not, once you get working, it's not too bad. It'll take a little while before the ground does freeze and we're not able to dig anymore. So the plan is, I don't know how much we're going to get done back here today, but just want to dig out the perimeter of where the beds will be going. Maybe fill it with some gravel, just so we have a nice clear area to stake out the deer fence, and then one by one start building some beds back here. I don't expect to get more than maybe one bed built before the snow comes. But we'll see. We'll see what we can get done today. We'll see how much. We'll see where we make it to.
I found a stick. I can't find the stick. I don't see the stick anywhere.
Alright, so we cleared off the deer netting. Here's the fence posts and the weed guard that was down. And this is kind of what we're working with. That's where all the weed guard was. Again, so the plan, we'll dig out the perimeter, put some gravel in, put the deer netting in, and just leave it there. That'll be its permanent home. And yeah, it was kind of a weird spot on our property. It just seemed to be kind of naturally clear of any trees. There were a few on the edges that were kind of, you know, deadfalls and just blown over by the wind. So, I mean, all we've done here is, you know, turn the soil over and brought in a little bit of topsoil. Yeah, so might try and get it set up for a little bit more success next year. Alright guys, well there's the start. Didn't really get much done. The temperature's dropped. Oh, it was about 8 degrees Celsius. Now it's down to about 2 or 1. It's freezing out here. And so a little bit of a start. I just put started putting the gravel in just so that the ground didn't kind of collapse in on it on the trench. It might rain tonight, so just wanted to make sure that didn't happen. Again, I'm going to pack all this down, and this is going to be kind of the perimeter where the fence sits, and then we'll build the beds inside, time permitting, as always. So I think we're gonna, let's head inside and talk about how the garden did this year and what's new in the planting room. Let's get out of this cold. All right, we are back down in the planting room. Sorry about the background noise. The furnace is running because the weather has turned bitterly cold outside. Hopefully next weekend the weather holds off a little bit so we can do a little bit more work out there. There is lots to do. I don't know why it ends up piling up at the end of the year, but it always seems to be a race before the snow shows up. There's lots of work to do down in this room as well. There's pots and stuff everywhere down here. Needs a good organize, and because we have a lot more beds in the coming year, we are gonna have to find more room to start seeds inside. We're gonna have to start a lot more seeds. So what I do have is I picked up a wire shelf from Menards and did manage to find a whole bunch of grow lights on Kijiji, Craigslist, kind of the same, one of the websites. So have 4 sets of these, the grow lights, which I'll just zip tie to the underside of the wire shelves. I have 4 sets, got a pretty good price on them. They've only been used for a year. I find there's a lot of these kind of things coming up on the secondhand market. These ones were used by a lady who was trying to do some indoor gardening, and it is pretty tricky to do to grow plants from seed to harvest strictly inside. It is pretty tricky, so she gave it a shot. It didn't work, so she had 4 sets of these. On the flip side, because there's a lot more people trying to grow a certain variety of plant inside, there are a lot of, almost commercial grade grow lights that are showing up on the secondhand market, and again, it's just good for us people who are just growing veggies inside, trying to get a head start on the season. These ones are a little bit different than the other ones I've had. They have built-in timers, so I don't have to go out, and normally what I use is just a regular block heater timer, but these ones have it all built into the power. Pretty bright. That's the highest setting, so yeah, they're pretty bright. They will they'll do great for next season. That being said, this space is getting pretty tight down here. We do have some space in the outside garage, a little room that's heated and would actually work really well for growing inside. But again, it's one of these things where it's nice to have everything down here. It makes it a lot easier to check on everything. I have a sink, we have water, which we don't have, so we'd have to set something up outside. It presents its own set of challenges, so we are still kind of thinking about what would be the easiest for us. But I mean, we are definitely running out of room down here, so we'll see what happens. Other than that, figure to end off this video, talk about how everything went and what our final numbers are for 2022. Have them all written down here. So talk about what worked and what didn't work this well. Surprisingly enough, it's kind of bizarre. You think that it's kind of, if a plant doesn't work, it's kind of specific to your garden and something that you did wrong. But these, the ones that didn't work this year, seem to be universal across our region. For example, what are they? Cucumbers. Jeez, it's late. This might take a while. Our cucumbers did pretty poorly this year, especially the slicing cucumbers. They really didn't get rolling this year at all. I'm sure I can't see it on the list right away. I'll get to it. It's on here somewhere, and I'll get to it eventually. But they did pretty terrible, and chalk it up to a specific thing in our garden. But from everybody I talked to, it seemed to be quite universal that cucumbers really didn't do well in our area in general. So maybe something about the weather pattern in the spring and the summer, for whatever reason, just wasn't very conducive to growing slicing cucumbers in our region. So top of the list, asparagus. We got 10 pounds of asparagus this year. There are still a few areas of that they're grown in a 4x10 section. You can go back and just look at any one of the garden tours. The asparagus have been there for quite a while. It's in a 4x10 bed. There are still a few immature plants. We sowed the seeds one year and then had to go back subsequent years and re-sow to kind of fill out the bed. Most of those plants are mature plants and they are yielding quite well. So we had 10 pounds of asparagus. they were good, and you know those plants they're really hardy. They just keep producing, and as the other plants in the other areas of the bed kind of mature more, they'll start to produce more. But yeah, they never have a bad year. At least we haven't had a bad year with asparagus yet. Cauliflower was one of the things. This is the first year we've managed to harvest cauliflower. I've been scaling back on how many cauliflower I planted because in previous years they've done so terrible, and you just don't want to divert or allocate space to something that you kind of have a bad track record of growing. But this year they all produced. They all did really well. We got 16 heads in total, 20 pounds of cauliflower, and we ate some of it fresh. A lot of it we blanched, froze, and we've been eating it as winter is showing up. We definitely don't have enough to keep us going through the whole winter, but it freezes and you know cooks back up really well. It's awesome. So I will be increasing next year the amount of cauliflower I plant. Again, we've got more flexibility now that we have more beds to work with, so I'll probably be doing a full bed of cauliflower. Again, when it works, it's awesome, and it's super expensive in the stores, so happy that it worked out. Broccoli, again, another crop that seems to always work well for us. The imperial broccoli that we plant from Stoke Seeds works really well. It is very much weather dependent. If you have a nice cool spring and a cooler summer, they don't really like the intense heat. But we got 20 pounds of broccoli, 19 pounds of broccoli as well, and again freezes really well, keeps very well. Zucchini, 65 pounds. Again, it never has a bad year. Patty pans, we got 23 pounds. Let's see here. Yeah, pickling cucumbers, 38 pounds. They did slightly better than the slicing cucumbers. They took a little bit longer than normal, but once they got rolling, they eventually did start to produce quite well. Just going down the list, 28 pounds of carrots. That was above average last year. The germination was still was not great this year, but better than last year. Last year we got just baby carrot size carrots. This year there was a lot more weight to them. Still not as much as we'd have hoped for. From that 28 pounds, I think we only pickled a couple 1 liter jars, and dilly carrots are really good. They're really nice to have on hand for a quick snack. They're awesome, so we are hoping to get that number up quite a bit. Was a great year for beets. 67 pounds of beets. I have no idea. It's not written down, so we'll maybe talk about that subsequent videos. How many jars of beets we have? It's quite a few, but 67 pounds of beets. I always it's just funny to get this huge quantity of food and to actually be able to do something with it. I always think that it's kind of hilarious. If I can somehow get that to 100 pounds, that would just be that would be pretty funny. 18 pounds of beans. Again, we do a row of beans. They always seem to do well. The problem with the beans is they always run out of time. We get a lot off of the plants, but by the time the frost shows up, there are still tons of underdeveloped beans on the plants. There's still flowers on the plants. So if we had another month of growing season, that number would be way higher than it is. But as it stands, they just run out of time. But there's enough time to get a pretty good harvest from them. Dilly beans, again, we've done, I can't remember, didn't do as many jars as we'd have liked to. Again, there's only 18 pounds, but Blanching them and freezing them works really good. As long as you pick them when they're the right size, not too big. Otherwise, they get a little they get pretty fibrous, and yeah, you get sick of them pretty quick. Slicing cucumbers, 7.5 pounds. Again, not a very good harvest. We're gonna work out something for that trellis. I did take it down. It they just didn't work where that trellis is. Those cherry plants are getting huge, and they are just blocking out the sun, sucking up a lot of the nutrients from that bed. So we are going to relocate them, put them somewhere where they have a better chance of flourishing. Cherry tomatoes, 10 pounds. Regular tomatoes, 90 pounds. We did not get a good, that sounds like a lot, but it's not that many. Tomatoes they're heavy. They're a lot of water in them, so the weight on those guys adds up fairly quickly, but not a very good year. The problem just was we tried putting them in that 12 by 12 bed. They just got out of control. It was too difficult to get in there and maintain the plants. The tomato plants work really well in the 4 by 10 or 4 by 20 if we decide to use a full bed. They work really well in those beds. It's really easy to walk around the plants and get in there and do the maintenance that you have to do on those plants. So in with that 90 pounds is also the Roma tomatoes that they did okay. We're probably going to try a different variety next year. All right, moving down, we had 33 pounds of jalapeno peppers. We pickled all of them. Peppers did pretty good this year. The jalapenos, we've been using them. They are extremely hot. I don't know what we did differently this year, but man, they've got a lot of heat to them. I don't have the number for bell peppers, but we got a fair number of those as well. What really was a problem this year is that we just had a lot of bugs. Lots of bugs attacking the pepper, lots of slugs on the plants. I didn't have the bug netting completely closed off on that bed. I figured, the bugs didn't really bother those plants in previous years, so wasn't really too concerned about it. But one of the changes next year is just going to be, we got to seal that bed like we do the cabbage and the broccoli bed. Seal it up with that bug netting, because they get into the peppers and really cause a lot of problem. The red nights, that red night variety of bell peppers was. I'm going to keep planting that, even though the seeds are a bit expensive, but the peppers that you get out there are just enormous. Once they're like fully grown, they are absolutely huge peppers. We tried some kohlrabi. We got 4 of them, and I think we're going to keep planting those. Those are really good roasted. Really surprisingly good when we just chop them up and roast them. 15 bunches of kale. Say bunches, we didn't really weigh it out. There's usually about 5 or 6 good size, big leaves in a bunch. So we have 15 bunches. Similar with Swiss chard, 15 bunches of Swiss chard. What we normally do with that is, if we don't use it, we will fry it and freeze it in ice cube trays and just take it out for as we need it. Usually use it for breakfast. 18 heads of lettuce. That includes romaine. We got a few iceberg, but not many, and green butterhead lettuce. The red butterhead lettuce, we had 16 heads. Sounds like a lot, but we've gotten more in previous years. This year, I don't think we were able to give away very much produce. Whereas in previous years, we would give quite a bit of it to friends and family, which is always nice. 35 pounds of cabbage. Again, it keeps really well. Whatever we don't use, we just pickle it. We use the same recipe as, or I think we dilute the brine a little bit more than a standard pickle recipe, and then just pickle it, and then it's really good. Mashed potato squash. We got 70 pounds of mashed potato squash, 20-ish, 19.5 pounds of acorn squash, acorn and spaghetti squash. The reason we have the acorn is because they were mislabeled at the greenhouse. They were supposed to be butternut squash, but they weren't. So yeah, really very poor year for spaghetti squash. We normally get I think last year over 100 pounds of spaghetti squash. This year 20 pounds, which is, you know, it's 3 squash, so not a very good year for that. A good year for mashed potato squash, 70 pounds. Those are really good, very good to eat. Probably my favorite squash. So again, while 70 pounds sounds like a lot, they will last for 6 months in a cold room, and yeah, they don't last us the winter. So we're gonna try and get more out of the beds that we have. Now, even though a lot of the melons didn't reach full maturity by the time the frost rolled around, we have a lot of melon plants that looked like a golf ball or softball size. But we did end up getting about 10 pounds of edible melons, cantaloupes. We did get 14 pounds of snap peas. We got, I'm not sure how many just garden peas we had. Doesn't say, wasn't written down. 10 pounds of onions. Again, onions, it was just a brutal year for them. We tried starting the seeds inside, didn't work, put sets in the ground, and they did okay. I don't know if it's worth the amount of space they take up for 10 pounds of. If we were getting 50 pounds of onions, it would be a different story. And I know everybody, it's one of the things like, oh, why do you grow onions? They're relatively cheap in the store. Well, the red ones are not cheap anymore. They are expensive. So I mean, I don't know what we're gonna do to get a higher yield on those onions. What else? We didn't get enough strawberries for it to make the list. Again, wasn't totally unexpected. We moved the plants. We snipped the runners, moved the runners to another garden bed, and then dug up the old plants. So it's one of those kind of a transition year. Not the plants are spending all their energy getting established in the new bed. Hopefully next year they'll survive the winter. And yeah, next year we'll get a good number of strawberries. Blueberries also are not on this list. They did below average this year. I had high hopes. They didn't get chewed. The deer didn't prune them back over the winter time. However, the 3 plants in the middle, the really large blueberry plants that can produce quite a bit, really didn't do much. They spent the majority of their energy, it looked like they spent putting on new growth, which is fine. Hopefully next year they'll make up for their lack of production this year. All right, so the final total is approximately 630 pounds of produce taken out of the garden this year. And last year we came in at just under 500 pounds, so we did get more, definitely got more out of the garden this year. Still trying to crank that number as high as we can, and just a rough estimate of the costs savings to us. So what, you know, if we had to go buy that produce in the store, saved us about $1,450. So $1,450 saved. That's if we would have, had to go and buy everything. So pretty good overall. Pretty happy with those totals. Again, every year you tweak something to make it better. Like I said, next year we're gonna go back to putting the squash in those 12 by 12 beds, putting the tomatoes in the 4 by 20 beds, and yeah, just try and keep up on that maintenance for those plants. We're still hoping the weather holds out next weekend. I can finish off those garden beds, and that way everything's ready to go in the spring for when the plants need to be put outside. So that's it. That's it for me for now. Hopefully we'll see you next weekend, finishing off those tasks outside. See you later.
Oh no! My favorite piece of ice! Come back here! Come back here, my favorite piece of ice! There we go. Don't smash my favorite piece of ice. Whoa, look at that piece of ice. Hey, don't smash my big piece of ice. See? Big piece of ice.